He's one of the most successful British pop rock performers, loved by audiences because of his extravagant looks and emotional songs. He's also a winner of all the famous showbiz awards, a tireless touring artist who has given over 3,000 concerts worldwide, and a generous philanthropist striving to save the world from incurable diseases. All this is about the one and only Elton John. Why did Elton start wearing glasses despite having no vision problems? Why did he not speak to his mother for many years? And what did he do that made believers angry? We'll tell you about these and other facts in our new video. Ready? Let's go!
Let's go.
Elton John, how the Rocketman lives and how he spends his millions. Reginald Kenneth Dwight was born on March 25, 1947 in the London suburb of Pinner, into the family of military musician Stanley and his wife Sheila, who was passionate about playing the piano. The boy's parents constantly quarreled. His mother would often beat him and his father ignored him, so Reggie sought to spend more time at his maternal grandparents' home. The only thing that united Reggie and his parents was music. They introduced him to popular music, but his father opposed strongly to his son pursuing a career in show business. He never approved of his choice and never attended any of his concerts. Reggie learned to play his grandmother's piano at the age of 4 and could already pick out almost any tune by ear. At 7, he began studying with a tutor and composed his own pieces. And at 11, he won a scholarship to the Royal Academy of Music, which he attended on Saturdays. The boy enjoyed playing Chopin and Bach, but he was not a diligent student. Although Dwight easily passed exams without preparation, he decided to leave the academy before the final exams as well as his regular school. When Reginald was 14, his parents divorced, and soon his mother married artist Fred Fairbrother, who turned out to be a caring stepfather and supported the boy's desire to become a musician. His mother also began treating him warmer than she used to. After some time, they moved to a new apartment in the same neighborhood, where Reginald wrote his first songs and continued to live after achieving 4 hit albums. At 15, thanks to his mother and stepfather, Reginald got a job as a pianist at a local pub. There, he played hits and his own songs from Thursday to Sunday. Although he had normal sight at that time, he started wearing horn-rimmed glasses to imitate rock and roll star Buddy Holly. In 1962, Reginald and his friends founded the band Bluesology and performed in popular clubs for several years. In 1967, he responded to an advertisement in the British newspaper New Musical Express, placed by Ray Williams from the record label Liberty Records. Williams gave Reggie an envelope with song lyrics by Bernie Taupin, who had also responded to the ad and gave him the task to write the music for them. Although both young men failed to pass the audition, this marked the beginning of a long creative partnership. When they first met in 1967, they wrote the song Scarecrow. According to our hero, they never quarreled, either because of professional or personal issues. Possibly it's because they never wrote songs together. Taupin sent lyrics and Elton sent back the complete composition. 6 months later, Reginald started calling himself Elton John after members of the band Bluesology, saxophonist Elton Dean and vocalist Long John Baldry. In 1972, he officially changed his name to Elton Hercules John. By the way, he chose the middle name not in honor of the mythical hero, but after a horse named Hercules from the British sitcom Steptoe and Son. In 1968, John and Taupin joined DJM Records as staff songwriters. For 2 years, they wrote light tracks for popular artists. Among their early works was the song I Can't Go On, Living Without You, for Lulu, who could have represented the United Kingdom at the Eurovision Song Contest in 1969. Following the advice of music publisher Steve Brown, the duo began writing more complex songs for John. Thus, in 1969, his debut album, Empty Sky, was released, receiving decent reviews from critics but remaining unknown to the general public. In the late 60s, the artist was engaged to his secretary, Linda Woodrow. At the time, she financially supported John and Taupin, but 2 weeks before the wedding, Elton broke off the engagement. Although they hadn't communicated since, in 2020, John paid for Woodrow's knee surgery at her request. In fact, the song Someone Saved My Life Tonight is about Elton's fear of marriage and his backing out of the wedding plans.
And someone saved my life tonight, sugar bear.
In 1970, the album Elton John was released, reaching high chart positions, receiving a Grammy nomination and establishing a successful formula for the next albums: rock songs with gospel chords combined with poignant ballads.
This is the song.
That same year, an even more successful concept album, Tumbleweed Connection, was released, focusing on the themes of the Wild West and the American Civil War. Additionally, in 1970, John began his first same-sex relationship with Queen's manager John Reid, who soon became his manager as well. Their relationship ended 5 years later, but Reid continued working with John until 1998. Then several significant releases followed. In 1971, the album Madman Across the Water came out, and in 1972, Honky Chateau was released, becoming Elton's first album that topped the Billboard 200.
Yeah, I'm gonna count myself.
This album marked a streak of 7 next #1 albums in the United States. In 1973, Elton recorded the pop album Don't Shoot Me, I'm Only the Piano Player, and the album Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, which was instantly acclaimed by critics and became the best-selling album of his career. In 1974, John released the album Caribou, and, together with John Lennon, recorded a cover version of the Beatles song Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. He also participated in the recording of Lennon's song Whatever Gets You Through the Night. By the way, Lennon promised to perform this song on stage with John if it reached #1 on the American charts. It did, and performing at Elton's concert was Lennon's last performance. In 1975, John appeared in the film adaptation of the rock opera Tommy and released the autobiographical album Captain Fantastic and the Brown Dirt Cowboy, along with the rock album Rock of the Westies, both debuting at #1 on the American charts. That same year, Elton received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. During this time, the artist became addicted to drugs and alcohol, and in 1975, he nearly died of a drug overdose. He was also suffering from bulimia and depression. In 1976, the album Blue Moves was released, featuring the single Sorry Seems to Be the Hardest Word, as well as the incredibly successful duet with Kiki D, Don't Go Breaking My Heart. In fact, John's albums from 1970 to 1976 were not only commercially successful, but also received the highest critical acclaim. Also, all 6 of his albums that made it onto Rolling Stone's list of the 500 greatest albums of all time are from this period. Soon in an interview, John came out as bisexual, hesitating to label himself as gay immediately, fearing it would shock his fans. In November 1977, Elton announced his retirement from music, citing creative and physical exhaustion, and Bernie Taupin began collaborating with other musicians. However, the artist soon changed his mind and decided to release an album a year later. He also found a new lyricist, Gary Osborne, with whom he recorded the album A Single Man in 1978. In 1979, John was among the first Western artists to tour the Soviet Union. Fun fact, when people saw the artist in colorful and extravagant costumes, many of them thought that this was how everyone dressed in Western countries. Around the same time, Elton released a disco-influenced album, Victim of Love, which failed to impress both the public and critics. His next albums also did not achieve success. Therefore, he reunited with Taupin, and in 1983, they recorded the album Too Low for Zero, which brought him back to the charts. Around at this time, Elton met German sound engineer Renata Blauel, and they married on Valentine's Day in 1984. However, during their honeymoon, he told his young wife that he wanted her to leave him alone. According to her, she almost took her own life after such a statement. Nevertheless, their marriage was dissolved only in 1988. All the time, Elton John continued to record new music, perform, and collaborate with other artists. In 1988, over 2,000 of his memorabilia were sold at Sotheby's auction in London, bringing in more than $20 million. That same year, the album Reg Strikes Back was released, becoming his most successful album of the late 80s. His highest charting single of the decade was That's What Friends Are For, recorded with Dionne Warwick, Gladys Knight, and Stevie Wonder, for which they won the Grammy Award. In the late 80s, the musician had laser surgery to remove nodules from his vocal cords. He later admitted that this problem was caused by drug abuse. He also released the commercially successful album Sleeping with the Past, dedicated to Bernie Taupin. The 90s began very successfully for Elton John. In 1990, the single Sacrifice became #1 in the UK. In 1991, John won Best British Male at the Brit Awards. In 1992, the song Basque won the Grammy for Best Instrumental. Moreover, by 1990, John had finally overcome his addictions. According to the artist, the song Don't Give Up by Kate Bush and Peter Gabriel greatly helped him during this period. In 1992, the musician released the album The One, featuring the hit title track. In fact, this album was the first work recorded by John in a completely sober state. Elton later shared that recording without alcohol and drugs was very challenging. In April of the same year, the artist performed at a concert in honor of his close friend Freddie Mercury at Wembley Stadium, singing The Show Must Go On and Bohemian Rhapsody with the remaining members of Queen. Also in 1992, Elton finally came out as gay, and in 1993 started dating young Canadian advertising director and filmmaker David Furnish. Then John and Tim Rice wrote several songs for the 1994 Disney animated film The Lion King. The artist received an Oscar and a Grammy for the song Can You Feel the Love Tonight, which became a huge hit. That same year, John was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and in 1995, he released the album Made in England and performed the single Believe at the Brit Awards and received the Outstanding Contribution to Music Prize. In 1995, the musician was appointed a Commander of the Order of the British Empire. The summer of 1997 was marred by the deaths of two close friends of Elton's. Gianni Versace was murdered on July 15, and Princess Diana died in a car accident on August 31st. In early September, John asked Bernie Taupin to rewrite the lyrics of their 1973 song Candle in the Wind in honor of Diana, and on September 6, he performed it at her funeral in Westminster Abbey.
You lived your life like a candle in the wind.
The song, originally written about Marilyn Monroe, earned Elton the Grammy Award, became the best-selling single in Billboard's history, and entered the Guinness Book of World Records with 33 million copies sold. The proceeds from sales, which is about $70 million, were donated to Diana's charities. Also in 1997, Elton released the album The Big Picture, dedicated to the late Versace. At the same time, John wrote music for the Broadway musical The Lion King, and in 1998, Queen Elizabeth knighted Elton for his services to music and charity. Meanwhile, the artist ended his friendship and professional relationship with John Reid. Auditors of the musician discovered a $25 million discrepancy in his accounts, and Elton, shocked by such an unexpected betrayal from Reid, sued his company. Due to the public breakup with Reid, Elton had a serious falling out with his mother, who liked his former partner, and blamed David Furnish for their disagreements. Mother and son reconciled only in 2015, just 2 years before her death at the age of 92. In 1999, Elton and Tim Rice recorded an album for the musical Ada, for which they won a Tony Award and a Grammy Award. The same year, the artist suffered a heart attack during a flight. After that, he had a pacemaker implanted. In 2001, the album Songs from the West Coast was released, but John apparently got tired of starring in his music videos. In the video for This Train Don't Stop There Anymore, Justin Timberlake appeared instead of him, and in I Want Love, it was Robert Downey Jr. By the way, you can watch the videos about Timberlake and Downey Jr. on our channel. In 2004, the album Peachtree Road was released, and in 2005, John wrote music for Billy Elliot's The Musical, also playing a lead role there. A year later, his second autobiographical album, The Captain and the Kid, was released. Meanwhile, at the end of 2005, John and Furnish became one of the first couples to enter into a civil partnership, which had just become legal in the UK. In 2009, the couple wanted to adopt a Ukrainian boy with HIV, but officials refused, stating that Ukrainian law did not recognize same-sex unions. In the 2000s, Elton John gave numerous solo concerts and also performed with many global stars, including Celine Dion, Kanye West, Billy Joel, Alice in Chains, Lady Gaga, and Kate Bush. At the end of 2010, John and Furnish became parents for the first time. On December 25, a boy named Zachary Jackson Levon furnished John was born to the couple via surrogacy. In 2010, Elton seriously enraged some members of Christian groups in the US by calling Jesus Christ a compassionate, super-intelligent gay man who understood human problems. Anti-homosexual opponents bombarded the musician with threats, but that did not affect his opinion. And in 2014, he stated that Jesus would have certainly been in favor of same-sex marriage. Elton's active touring continued in the 2010s. For instance, on June 30, 2012, he visited Kyiv, becoming part of a joint concert with Queen organized by the Elena Pinchuk Anti-AIDS Foundation. In fact, in 2007, he had already given a charity solo concert in Kyiv. In the same 2010, Elton, along with eccentric country musician Leon Russell, released the album The Union. According to the artist, it marked a new stage in his career, where he no longer needed to make pop albums. On January 11, 2013, the same surrogate mother gave birth to Elton and David's second son, Elijah Joseph Daniel Furnish John. Besides his 2 children, the musician has a total of 10 godchildren, including Sean Lennon and sons of David and Victoria Beckham, Brooklyn and Romeo. Lady Gaga became the godmother of his sons. However, John's mother, who doesn't like Furnish, has never seen her grandchildren. In September of the same year, John received the Brit Icon Award for his lasting impact on UK culture and released his 31st album, The Diving Board.
From up there on the diving board.
On December 21, 2014, after same-sex marriage became legal in the UK, John and Furnish got married. By the way, back in 2008, John believed that civil partnerships were more preferable for gay couples than marriage. However, in 2012, he changed his mind, stating that the term partner did not convey the depth of his feelings, unlike the word husband. The couple still lives a happy married life, and according to Elton, they have been sending each other love notes every Saturday for 16 years. In 2016, the artist released the album Wonderful Crazy Night and appeared in the action film Kingsman: The Golden Circle, which premiered in September 2017.
Now, go off and save the world.
If I save the world, can I have 2 tickets to your next concert?
Darling, if you save the world, you can have a backstage pass.
He also helped raise $2.5 million for Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign by performing a concert in New York. In early 2018, the artist announced his 3-year final tour, Farewell Yellow Brick Road. He explained he decided to depart from the stage because he wanted to spend the rest of his life with his family, although he admitted that he had not considered retiring from touring until recently. Meanwhile, Paramount Pictures began working on a biopic about Elton's life from childhood to the 1980s, where he was portrayed by Taron Egerton, who also performed all the songs. The film Rocketman premiered on May 16, 2019. John and Egerton recorded a new song for the film, I'm Gonna Love Me Again, which earned the musician his 2nd Academy Award for Best Original Song. The production of Rocketman was challenging because many producers wanted to work on the film only if it received a PG-13 rating. However, John insisted that his life could not be depicted within the limits of such a rating. Also, in 2012, Elton shared that he wanted Justin Timberlake to play him. For some time, the latter even negotiated to participate in a film about John. In September 2019, the musician released his autobiography, Me. The audiobook of it was narrated by Egerton, but the prologue and epilogue were read by John himself. In 2020, Elton's ex-wife, Renata Blowell, who never wanted their past to become public, sued him for repeatedly mentioning their relationship in the book, film, and social media, claiming it violated their divorce agreement, and demanded $3.7 million in compensation. They settled the claim privately the same year. In October 2021, the artist released the collaboration album The Lockdown Sessions, which he recorded during the first lockdown.
I'm not gonna miss you.
The performers John collaborated with included Miley Cyrus, Dua Lipa, Nicki Minaj, Stevie Wonder, Stevie Nicks, Ed Sheeran, and Britney Spears. In February 2022, in an Instagram post, Elton John supported the Ukrainian people and called for an end to Russia's war against Ukraine. He also joined the Stand Up for Ukraine celebrity campaign, donated $125,000 via United 24, advocated for a humanitarian corridor for Mariupol residents, and during his concert, he stopped the performance to point out a Ukrainian flag in the crowd, making the audience cheer for the Ukrainian woman holding the flag. On June 25, 2023, the artist headlined the Glastonbury Festival, closing it with a 2-hour farewell performance. The event drew the largest TV audience in the history of UK festivals. The Farewell Yellow Brick Road Tour, which consisted of 330 concerts, was extended due to lockdown restrictions and John's health issues. During a concert, he lost his voice and was diagnosed with atypical pneumonia. The final concert of the tour took place on July 8, 2023 in Stockholm. John's farewell tour grossed $940 million, making it the second highest grossing tour of all time after the Eras tour of Taylor Swift. By the way, you can learn more about this amazingly popular singer in another video on our channel. In 2024, John became the 19th EGOT winner, having received the 4 most prestigious awards in show business: the Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, and Tony Awards, after winning the Emmy Award for Outstanding Variety Special Live for Elton John, Farewell from Dodger Stadium. Although Elton ended his touring career, he said that he would continue to perform at some shows. Now, he is already planning to record a new album. In September 2024, he also plans to release a memoir about his 5-year farewell tour. Elton John is among the world's best-selling and highest-paid celebrities, which is unsurprising. Dozens of successful albums and large-scale tours have helped John earn a fantastic fortune, currently estimated at $650 million. Besides his creative pursuits, Elton John has earned substantial sums thanks to various advertising campaigns. For instance, in 1991, he appeared in a Diet Coke commercial. In 2001, he took part in a Royal Mail advertisement. In 2012, he promoted Pepsi. In 2018, the artist starred in a Christmas commercial for the London department store John Lewis & Partners, earning over $6 million, and also featured in a Snickers ad. In 2021, he appeared in an Uber Eats commercial, and in 2023, he promoted Doritos. In fact, back in 2000, his net worth was only $100 million due to his insanely lavish lifestyle. During the 90s, he spent several $1,000,000 a month. At that time, he also acquired a museum-quality collection of 28 cars, 20 of which he auctioned off in 2001 for $20 million. Among his elite cars were a Maserati and Aston Martin, as well as various Jaguar, Ferrari, Bentley, and Rolls-Royce models. John is also known as an avid art collector. His collection is worth $200 million. In February 2024, the artist auctioned off around 900 items from his personal collection, including paintings, photographs, jewelry, clothing, and footwear at Christie's in New York, earning $20.5 million. Additionally, Elton owns over 1,000 pairs of glasses. There even were rumors that he always booked a second hotel room for his accessories. The artist has denied this, but who knows? Of course, the musician also owns numerous luxurious properties. Since 1974, his primary residence has been the enormous Woodside estate in Old Windsor, built in the 1750s. Elton purchased the house for £400,000, which, accounting for inflation and currency changes, is equivalent to $5 million today. The interior design features wood and gold accents, chosen by John after his stay in a rehabilitation center. Currently, he lives here with his husband and children, but previously, his grandmother resided here as well. In the Old Orangery, the house includes a library, and the 35-acre garden features flower beds, ponds, stables for donkeys and ponies, and even a life-size Tyrannosaurus Rex sculpture named Daisy. In 1992, Elton acquired a 2,500 square foot penthouse in Atlanta. Over the next 20 years, he purchased 5 more apartments in the building, combining them into a 13,000 square foot penthouse. Eventually, in September 2023, he listed it for $5 million, but just a month later, he managed to sell it for $14 million. In 2015, he bought a huge estate in Beverly Hills for $33 million. Built in 1966, the main 24 square foot house features eccentric interiors and includes 10 bedrooms, 22 bathrooms, you heard that right, 22, a living room, a dining room, 9 fireplaces, a dressing room, and more. The estate also boasts extensive grounds. In 2022, Elton sold this stunning villa for $75 million. However, the musician still owns 2 residences nearby, one purchased in 2012 for $7.2 million and another in 2021 for $8.5 million. In 2022, Elton acquired a penthouse in a beautiful building in Toronto, characterized by abundant greenery on each terrace, with its designs mimicking a mountaintop house. The price Elon paid for the penthouse has not been disclosed. The artist also owns a townhouse in the luxurious London area of Holland Park, a house with a Mediterranean sea view in Nice, and an apartment in a palazzo on the island of Giudecca in Venice, although there are no details about them in the media. Elton John spends enormous sums not only on his comfort. Once, the media called him the most generous celebrity in the UK, calculating that he spends much more on charity than other famous fellow citizens. The musician regularly takes part in various campaigns and movements. Moreover, he runs an AIDS foundation. John established the foundation foundation after the death of teenager Ryan White, who contracted HIV through a blood transfusion and died in 1990. The artist has allocated more than $125 million to finance the project. He continues to donate large sums to the development of the foundation, which is also supported by other stars and philanthropists. However, the musician openly feuds with some colleagues in the industry. For instance, he has a very strange relationship with Rod Stewart. The stars claim to be friends, but once John hired a sniper to shoot down the balloons that Stewart had launched into the sky to promote his concert. Also, when Rod put up a huge banner advertising his tour called Blondes Have More Fun, Elton placed his own banner on the opposite building that read, "But brunettes make more money." Quite an interesting friendship, don't you think? John is also famous for his quarrels with Madonna. Their feud began in 2004, when at the Q Awards, he got angry because of the singer's nomination for a Best Live Act award, as he strongly opposed lip-syncing. Madonna did not respond to the public humiliation from her colleague, and in 2012, she even accepted his apologies. At the 2008 GQ Awards, John and Lily Allen, as co-hosts, exchanged mutual insults several times, although Allen later explained it was just a joke. Elton is a big football fan. In the 70s and 90s, he was the chairman and director of Watford Football Club and still remains its honorary life president. Despite the fact that Elton has not written a single lyric for his songs throughout his career, he has an amazing talent for turning any words into a song. For example, during a talk show in 1997, he spontaneously set an oven manual to music. What do you think is the secret of Elton John's more than half-century-long popularity?